Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to Angel Face Magic Hour, and we're here with another amazing guest. We're here with Emily Gornick, the rich witch next door, and I'm so excited to have you on the show. We're going to be talking about a lot of fun stuff today. Briefly, just to begin, for those who don't know you, I'd like to have you just introduce yourself, who you are, maybe a little way that you would describe yourself, and where you're located.
Yeah, I love that. So I am a master spiritual life coach and manifesting mentor. What that means is that I combine the mindset with the woo. So I help women uncover and develop their spiritual gifts. And I allow them to do that holistically because when I was going through my spiritual awakening, which I know we'll talk about a lot, guys, is I found I had to find coaches for both of those. No one did it together. So I'm really passionate about making sure we're reprogramming the mind while we're getting the energetics all in alignment. I'm in Chicago. And I think something that also is unique to me is that I'm like your spiritual bestie, but I also am like a spiritual badass who can tap into your spirit team and guide you in ways that, not many other people can,
I
for
love
sure.
it. Yeah, you have like such a comfortable energy. I think sometimes, like when we look for someone who's going to try to guide us on our journey, it's like these weird websites that are like fairies and like it's just it's not attainable for everyone's life. So it's
No.
like, it's nice to have someone that you feel like you can relate to and get connected with in like a personable way, as well as getting, yeah, that guidance, like more intuitive guidance.
Right.
So
Well,
I'm
and it's like,
excited.
that's why I'm the rich witch next door. It's like the girl next door, but I like all the luxury things. And that doesn't just mean riches and money, although I sure do like that too. But it's like richness in all areas of life for sure. And I think you hit it spot on where like when we were starting our spiritual journey, I know we started in like some of the same containers and they were so amazing, but that was like such a breath of fresh air of the attainability of spirituality and your gifts. Whereas everything I had found was like, give up all your possessions and like go live in the woods. And I
Yeah,
was
time
like,
to go to the ashram.
I don't want
Yeah.
to do that. I just want to like walk in with like my Birkin and heal you.
I think too, like there is a lot of I guess like fear that if you have interest in tangible things, like you want to obtain, get a home, get these things that more like mindset coaches might be focusing on, that it takes you away from your spirituality. But spirituality, as you know, is just like part of our everyday life. It's
Yep.
just part of everything else that is happening. So why would we want to live in a way that is like creating suffering for ourselves? It's not joyous. We're just like causing ourselves to feel stressed because we have desires. So that's something we've been talking about on the
Yeah.
podcast a lot, actually, is just like being okay with having desires and wants and like wanting to have more for yourself. So I think you're a very good example of that. And I'm excited to just kind of talk about manifestation. So we'll get into
Yeah.
that later because I feel like it's such a topic that people can misunderstand. And there's also so much like fluff out there that's just like,
Totally.
oh, like do one meditation and then like your whole life will change. So I think like we
Yeah.
can talk about that. But I really want to get us introduced to you and talk about
Yeah.
kind of like how you got into these practices. So you are a medium, you're a
Yes.
coach, you do all these healing modalities, but I'm curious to see like how you got into that. We met through mediumship. We met through Sloane's, who's she's on the
Yeah.
been on the podcast. So
She's
I
the
know
best.
you like have opened up and claimed that title of mediumship, but what kind of came before that for you? I want to kind of take it way back
Yeah,
and
let's
go
go
more
way
to your
back.
childhood. Like, what was your experience growing up? Were you raised in any kind of spiritual practice or anything like that?
So, I always knew I was a medium. I just didn't know what that word was, obviously, as a child. However, I grew up Catholic and the youngest of four. So it was more like my imaginary friends were my spirit guides. Like it's funny now. I'm like, oh, hey, Rebecca, like, how we doing? One of my main ones.
I love that.
Um, but when I grew up in a haunted house. And so my parents were just like, you're being dramatic. Like, that's not real. And by the way, even if it was, like, you shouldn't do that. That's like devil work.
I
And
was gonna
I
say, by the way, it's demons.
yeah, like, by the way, I have come across some demons in my day. And ugh, no, thank you. But it was just so interesting because I feel like I really was starting to open up. And then, especially in like middle school, I started really diving into like seances and Ouija boards because I
Me
was
too.
just so curious. So, right, well, we were watching like The Craft and
Yeah.
stuff. We were like, oh, here I
Literally,
come.
that movie was like what opened me up so much. I was like, I want to get tarot cards.
I know, it's like, I was like, oh my God, I need to start casting spells. Like, what's happening? Um, but what was interesting about that is during that whole time period, I actually had some other things going on where I was getting severely bullied. That's when like AOL came out and I was getting cyberbullied. I don't even know how kids do it these days. Like,
Oh my God,
I
yes.
don't even know because that was terrible. And that was just IMs. Like, I don't know. Instant messages for those of you that did not grow up in the
Yeah,
AOL
this was like
day.
Snapchat or like texting, but
Yeah.
on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and then my sister passed away, and I actually convinced myself that she passed away to save me, and which is not true. But having been told like you're being dramatic, none of this is real, like you're crazy, and that's demonic, anyways, right? So then I was like, oh my gosh, maybe because I was playing around with the Ouija board, I probably like welcomed something in and she had to save me. And I lived that way until my like early 30s. When I would occasionally channel, interestingly enough, but it would be when I would be drinking and when I was drunk, because that's when like your walls are like completely down. I would have people step forward and I would be like, what is this? Like, this is so weird. And like, oh, I don't know how I feel about it. I would deliver the message. That would feel good. It was never anything like, malicious from the other side, which is great. However, I still would like shut it down when like the next day I'd be like, nope, not available for that. That's like not good. Um, and then 2020 hit and the pandemic, I had my spiritual awakening pretty much right away with it. I it's almost like spirit was like, you don't get to sleep anymore. Like, knock knock, come on down to
It's
Spirit
time.
Town. It's time. What was interesting about it though is I had moved home to live with my parents because I lived alone in Chicago and was like, I can't do this, like lockdown. I can't even.
Yeah.
Chicago was like wild. We couldn't even like go in a park to just walk around, whatever. Um, so I was there and I was having crazy thing happen that they even experienced. So like they
Was this the
have
house that you grew up in?
no,
Okay,
it's
I was just
not.
curious. I was like, back in the
Interesting.
haunted house.
Well, for like the first year, maybe even 2 years of my spiritual awakening, I kept getting taken back to my childhood home though, in like every
In your
dream.
dream.
Yeah,
I just had a dream last night in my childhood home,
but
actually.
sometimes it would be like good, and sometimes I think it was more like things I needed to deal with, you know?
Yeah.
Never scary, but like more like, oh, okay, gotta go back to that childhood memory, like figure that out. Um, but it was wild because like they have surround sound like throughout their whole house, and it started like blaring, just like wah, wah, wah. And parents come out and they're like, what is that? And I literally was like, I think it's me. I think it's me. I think this is happening. All that time I did like a free reading with Lauren's sister, who then introduced me to Lauren and Sloan. And I went into, get this, a virtual book club called Calling in the One. And this all happened within like days of each other. And they were like, oh my God, you're having your awakening. Cause I was like, I am freaked the F out. Like, what is happening? And I can't sleep because I keep getting woken up. I feel like there's someone in the corner, like I'm getting all these messages, and I'm like, what do I do? and spirit literally put me in their path. So it
They're
started
like,
for,
okay, you need someone to help you.
they're like, you need two people. I
Yeah.
needed I needed Lauren for Reiki. So she started pretty soon after doing like her weekly Reiki, I don't know, like membership, I guess you could call it. And I was like, oh my God, it was the first time Reiki for me was the first time that I could go and interact with the other side in like a container that felt super safe. And I could see and hear and like be like, oh my gosh, this is what I like. Why was I so scared? And all those different things. So I actually got certified by her in Reiki first. And then I was like, okay, slow though. Like, I got to figure out how to get some boundaries. Like, they're still coming at me. And so then that's when I developed or went into the spiritual development circle with you. And it was like so great because I feel like I was really going down that path. But then my problem was I didn't know like how to express my spiritual gifts. Like I didn't know, I was so scared of judgment. I mean, my parents still like they understood Reiki because that's, pretty well researched and like they actually have Reiki practitioners in a lot of ERs. My dad's a doctor, my mom's a nurse. So they're like, yeah, we understand that. We don't understand anything else you're talking about, which is fine. But they were like, don't go over into that woo woo. And I was like, too late. I think I'm already there. Which is where then for me, my spiritual awakening, it was almost like I had developed the muscle, right? Of like channeling and really listening to my spirit team, like all those things. But I didn't have the mindset to be able to do it. I had so many fears. So that's when I went and was like, okay, now I want to get certified in like NLP, which is neuro linguistic pathology, which is like subconscious reprogramming and hypnosis and breath work. And I just was like, I wanted to be able to talk about it and not be like, what are people going to think when I tell them I'm a medium? Which, spoiler alert, everyone, I've never had someone be like, oh, that's weird. Everyone is like, that's so cool. What is that? Like, what is that like for you? Like, how did you know? Like, there's more curiosity, which I think is cool. Um, but yeah, that's really what put me down the path. And then I discovered, well, I knew about the Akashic Records, but then I was directed by my spirit team that it's time to get certified in the Akashic Records in the Akashic realm. I was like, okay, like let's do it. I'm a manifesting generator, so I'm like, let's learn something new. I love it.
I
Um,
love how you're like, let me do something not that woo-woo, but let me get into the Akashic Records, which
oh
is
no,
like the most bizarre
oh, it's
of
so
them
bizarre
all.
there. Well, it's funny because like I didn't do it until I got certified. And when I went through my certification for life coaching, my my mentor who is certifying us, like she believes in the woo, but she doesn't like really bring it into this like certification. But she was more like, I feel like you're gonna need this. I went into the week-long certification. By the end of it, I rebranded myself as the Rich Witch Next Door. And I was like, we are 100% woo, all the time. And now I understand why I couldn't talk about it. So it was wild, but the Akashic Records came right after it. I don't think I was ready before. I was probably like, oh, this is scary.
Well,
Um,
there's so much to see there, and I think it's really
much.
important to honor like the journey. Like I think that is like we get into something and it can be overwhelming, especially if you
Uh-huh.
are turning on like your psychic gifts, you're seeing things that aren't really there, you're hearing things that aren't, I mean, they're really there, but not
Yeah,
everyone believes it. But
right.
you have all this sensory stuff going on. So I think going into the records can be kind of destabilizing if you're not
Totally.
prepared for
Yeah.
that. Not that it's scary or
No,
anything
it's
for
not.
people to do it, like, but I think having those skills to understand how the mechanisms of the spirit are actually working for you.
Yeah.
So I think it is a very it's inevitable that you have to go through that experience, I
Yeah.
think, of breaking through the fears of what other people will think. And I'm always constantly doing that because it's always getting weirder and weirder and weirder. And I'm like, okay, I had to deal with talking about ghosts. Now I'm like, okay, now I have to talk about aliens and angels. And it's just like, it gets weirder
Yeah.
the more that you open yourself up because there is so much layers of consciousness. So I
Hmm.
think it's like breaking free of the fear, but also breaking free of like what we think it might be like. Like you
Yeah.
probably didn't think that you would be like doing any of this when you first got into it. You were like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to relax, relax."
Yeah. And set some boundaries. Like
Yeah.
that's it. I don't want to
Yeah.
get woken up anymore. That's it.
Yeah. What does your parents think about it now, or you guys don't talk about it that much?
No, interestingly enough, like they're like my biggest supporters now. I think when I was actually in Europe traveling with my parents. I travel with my parents a lot. It's like the best as an adult because like you guys just it's so cool. To, like we went to Antarctica together.
Oh
We've been
wow.
like all over the world, but we happen to be in Europe. And this is when I decided I was going to go full time in my coaching business. And I hadn't even really gone full woo yet, but I sat them down and was like, there's no question and answer portion. I'm telling you that I'm going to go full time into coaching and I feel like it's going to evolve and it's going to be great. And I'm already bringing Reiki in and I love that. And they're like, okay, got it. Now, um, now they're more, my mom's like, oh, someone's like in the hospital. Can you like go pray to the moon? I'm like, okay, well, I don't pray to the moon, but sure. Um, and I think that they don't necessarily understand it, but my dad even said it best. And he's the one who's like, I would say like the most Catholic of us all. I'm not Catholic at all anymore. But in the family dynamic, he's the one who goes to church every Sunday. And really, I'm not saying there's anything wrong. By the way, if anyone here is like, I am religious, I think religion is beautiful. I think it's amazing. I just don't think it's necessarily for me specifically. But what's interesting about it is he's the one who goes, Emily, you and I both want the same thing in the end for people. So who am I to say that my way is better than your way? Like you're not harming people, you're helping. And he's like, and there are things in this world that you just can't explain. And so it was really like an eye-opening thing where it's almost like he was like, I don't necessarily understand you, but I can support you because I know that we both have the same end goal, which is to make sure people are happy and fulfilled, right? And
Oh, that
so,
makes me happy.
yeah, it was really cool. And now I mean, of course, when I rebranded as the Rich Witch Next Door, my dad was like, what does that
Which
mean? Witch? I don't like that name. I
I
was
have my
like,
Mother Mary shirt on, by the way.
oh my God, yes. But I said to my parents, I go, do we all forget about Glinda the Good Witch? Like, why are we all wicked witchy over here? What about the good witch? And they were like, oh, that's very on brand for you to be a good witch. I was like, I see, now we're all happy.
Yeah, I think people just have like their connections with certain words, and I
Yeah,
think which is one of them that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. But I think that's why it's so important for you to use it,
yeah, I agree
because
with
it's
you.
like changing that idea in people's mind that like a witch is something dark or evil or whatever.
Yeah, like, no. I mean, definitely not me, that's for sure. I want the big pink dress and the big tiara. That's me.
Yes, yeah, I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting just to hear a little bit about your process when you're doing a coaching session. Do you feel guided to bring certain things in there, or is it kind of like set up ahead of time? Like we might be doing some mediumship, or is it all separate? Like how do you organize your sessions?
Yeah, so for me, how I organize my sessions is we really start if it's one-on-one coaching, I really start with like the foundational pieces with them, and it always starts with mindset first because I feel like when people come to me, they're first wanting to reprogram things around like inner child or scarcity or like being ready, like have I healed enough? Like, can I even develop my gifts? What are they? And before we even get into the develop their gifts, it's like let's clear the path so that you can do it in a really empowered and motivated way. And then I'm guided in the sessions. I'm tapping into their spirit team. I'm talking to mine. If you're like, how are you talking to them? It's literally in my mind's eye. I'm not like actually having a conversation. Um, but what's really cool about it is I have so many now like tools and methods at my disposal that like as things are arising or coming up, that's when I'll pull out like, okay, now we're going to do something from NLP. Like let's flip that belief. Like, let's get you ready. And then I would say it just depends, like usually towards like the middle of working together, I do 3-month containers with my one-on-ones is when we'll then start developing, like I'll have them channeling. Um, I channel with them, which is really cool. I always wondered in the beginning, like, how does Sloan get the same spirit as me? And now I experience that too. And it's really cool because it helps build that confidence. And I will say not every client that comes and works with me is a medium in terms of like wanting to develop that skill. Some need the intuition and the psychic, some need the like energetics. It depends, right? We're all unique. Um, I do believe everyone can develop their mediumship, but not everyone is necessarily meant to. And so I'll get guided to that as well. Um, and then, yeah, I'll have throughout the whole time that you work with me, you get the energetics. Like I'm sending Reiki every day. I'm giving you recorded Reiki, recorded hypnosis, recorded EFT tapping to like help, between those calls to make sure that everything's integrating and that everything is moving forward. So that then at the end, like they're feeling confident in their gifts, however they want to use them in the
Do you
future.
find a lot of people are wanting to use them in their work, like do a reading or is it more just like for personal use?
I would say definitely a mixture of both. Like heavily, I have a lot of clients who then go off to actually become coaches because they're like, wait, I do want to use my intuitive guidance or channeling, but I want to do it in more than just readings. I want to do it in like a more impactful way. And so I have a few that have gone on to get certified with the same mentor that I did. And now they're like female empowerment coaches, but like bringing in that intuitive guidance, which I think is so cool. Um, and then there's some that are, like I feel like, they tell us to like niche in the coaching world. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm always talking to like female entrepreneurs, but somehow I always get like marketing executives or like teachers, and they're not necessarily looking to like break out and do, necessarily what I'm doing, but they bring it into their work in like such a beautiful way. Like, can you imagine being a teacher? I have one client that's popping into my head who does with special needs, and she can literally intuitively know like what they need and what's going on. And she's a really powerful medium. So being able to tap into the other side to be like, what's really happening has been a total game changer, she said, with her students. And I feel like that's so amazing that they're able to take that. Now, yeah, but I would say majority though end up either doing a side hustle or they already are an entrepreneur and then they come over and pivot into Spirit Town with us.
Yeah, I think like it's important for people to see that there are many different ways that you can utilize your gifts, your intuition, mediumship, psychic work. It doesn't always have to be like a reading.
Yeah.
It could be just infusing that into your everyday experience, how you're already working, or something like this where you're like,
Yeah.
I got so cold when we started talking about this. I don't know why. Um, Energy moving through, but I feel that it is important for people to see, yeah, it's not just one path.
There's not. Yeah. And you know what I think has been more interesting for me is that it's now people are coming to me for manifestation, and they have been for gosh, probably like a year and a half, maybe even 2 years. And that's when I was like, wait, why are you coming to me for manifestation, right? And so I think it's also as you're learning and as you're leaning in on your spiritual awakening, it's not like you have a spiritual awakening and you just have all the answers. It's like, what is, what is driving people to you, and how can you have an impact with them? And I can manifest some crazy, crazy stuff. And I have. So it's no wonder now that people are like, wait, how do you use your spirit team? How did you do that? Right. And then that typically it's the people who are in their spiritual awakening or have been for a year or two who then find me are like, wait, what are you doing? You're utilizing your gifts to call in like, money or clients or first class upgrades. And it's really cool to see how that's even shifted now, where that's why I'm a manifestation mentor, because you're going to find out how to actually manifest quicker and have more fun with it and like do it with the other side.
Yeah. That's so interesting. I
Yeah,
think too, like we evolve. So the more that
totally.
we shift and change, I think that there are so many different ways that we can tap in and utilize the skills that we have.
Yeah. And it's like, if you had told me that like 3 years ago that I was going to be telling people how to manifest, I would have been like, okay, like, what does that even mean? Right. Because back then, I was the one doing, excuse me, woo, doing all the things. Right. And being like, why is that's working? And it's like, no wonder it's not working because I'm not truly my authentic self. Right. Because I was squashing down my spiritual side and I'm doing it, because I should, not because I truly desire things. And I don't know. There's so many things that shift and play a role in manifesting. And then when I discovered chatting with my other side, which is when I got certified in the Akashic Records, is when I started interacting with the other side and going up to the records every day and then being like, here's your 3 aligned actions today. And I would like be like, what? Those are weird actions, but sure, I'll try anything. Fine. And like one time they told me to dance in the car. Sure, I had a 6 hour car ride ahead of me. I'll dance in the car. That sounds fun. And I literally signed 4 clients in that car ride. And I wasn't doing anything, right? Because I'm driving. So it wasn't like I was like DMing people, but I literally signed 4. And I was like, okay, there's something to this. The other side knows what they're doing and they just want to help us. So it's so
Yeah, and it's like
interesting.
moving through those energy blocks, like probably there's
Yeah.
something that was moving through you as you're dancing, or
Yeah.
and you're also driving, you're moving through energy more quickly. So
Yeah.
that's kind of interesting to think about.
Yeah. It's really interesting. And I think I think like manifestation is wild because we manifest every second of every day. Like we just do. It's like the energy we're putting out, it's the thoughts we're having, it's the words we're using, it's all the things. But what I think is really interesting about manifestation is how well now it's like a buzz topic, right? So it's like, the hot thing. However, um there's not a lot out there about like how do you actually uncover how you manifest, and I think that's really where like I focus as a manifesting mentor. It's like I can tell you what I do every day, but if it's not fun for you, guess what you're going to manifest? Like not fun. And who wants that, right? And I feel like manifesting is even evolving, which is really cool to see, right? And like kind of be on the forefront of, which I know you're like a manifesting queen yourself over there.
I try. I feel like there's certain things I block myself from though. So I'm moving through that
Yeah.
myself. But
Yeah.
it is like seeing how it works for me. And like for me, a lot of it is thoughts. Like for example, the other day, this person I was on their podcast last year and I was going to email them about doing another interview with them. And I was thinking about it. I was like, let me do that email. And then I got email from him, like literally within
Mm-hmm.
a second, right when I was going to my computer. I was like, how cool is that? So I
Yeah.
think for me, it's just coming through and trusting the intuitive thoughts that come in because a lot of the messages I receive are more clear, cognizant, psychic knowing. So it just like drops in. I'm like, let me pull that in and actually do something with it
Yeah.
because it's so easy to get these divine, beautiful ideas and not actually do anything with them. So I
Yeah.
think a lot of times people are getting the info, they don't know how to read it or they don't know how to do it. So that's
Totally.
someone like you can help them with is like understanding how they can actually process that information.
Oh, yeah. I feel like that's like step one is like, is it your intuition or are you crazy?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Right?
And there's so much fear, like you mentioned earlier when you were younger, and I had that same kind of experience of like, okay, I feel all these things, but it's scary to look at it because it there's a preconceived notion that it's something you shouldn't do.
Right.
Whether that comes from a religious perspective or just like society, but there's so
Yeah.
many things that tell us we shouldn't trust ourselves. We should
Right.
trust something else outside of us.
100%. Well, and it's that. And then it's like, you know, when it's like, oh, I asked for a sign, but I didn't see it. And I'm like, well, did you ask for a sign and then you were open to however you receive it? Or were you like, I have to see only this way? Because spirit doesn't always like it when we're like only this way, right? Because then we're so stuck on the outcome, even of the sign, that we're actually blocking what is just our intuition trying to tell us stuff too, which is also like a whole other thing that recently I've had a few clients come to me being like, I asked for it, I never saw it. And I was like, what do you mean you asked for it? And it was funny because literally a client said they were asked for a witch and they were like, and I haven't seen it. And I was like, you've been working with me. I, I'm right
I feel
here.
like it's so obvious sometimes that we can't even see it.
No, that's what I'm saying. I was like, I go, do you think it's because you literally are talking to a witch every day? And they were like, oh my gosh, I never even thought about it. I was like, now then you could be like, I want to see a witch hat. Like, say a witch hat, that would be fine. Like, I don't know how you're gonna where a witch hat is gonna come in, but probably don't use the word witch if your coach is a
It
witch.
could be anywhere though. Like I talk about that a
Totally.
lot. It could be anywhere. And I think there's like such a fine line. I'm sure you know and experience this between like obsessively looking for
Oh
signs
yeah.
and just being open and being like, wow, I am observing the world around me and then things come in.
Oh
Because
yes.
when we obsess, like you're saying, one, it can drive you literally insane,
Yeah.
but also it is blocking us from really allowing things to come in because we're like, it's gonna be a witch hat and
Yeah.
whatever it is. So yeah, just being
It's
open.
It's so true being open because I feel like, I mean, you probably experienced this too. Like, I asked once for a red balloon and I went to a street fest and they were playing 99 red balloons. And then there was like, um, what is that cereal? A Lucky Charms commercial. And they have red balloons in the cereal. And I was literally like, oh, whoa. And to your point, like being open to like how will that come through? If that's, because obviously we ask a question with our signs, like if I should do X, Y, and Z, like show me this as the sign. And if I then had just been like, where are the red balloons? I'm sure I would have not even taken, although the 99 red balloons, they were
It's
really
kind of
hitting me over the
obvious.
head with that. That one was real
That's really
obvious.
funny.
Yeah. Yeah. But like the Lucky Charm cereal, or like I would happen to be with my nieces. They were watching My Little Pony and a red balloon came across the screen. And I was like, did anyone else see that?
It's everywhere once you like just
Yeah.
start observing, but it can be
Yeah.
very overwhelming. So I think it is super
Yeah.
important to have some kind of guidance, like whether that's a coach or a program or even just like listening to a podcast or something.
Yep.
Have someone that can relate to you because it can be very overwhelming when you're
Mm-hmm.
opening yourself up because there is
100%.
so much happening and we don't yet understand how to create the boundaries, how to have some sense of reality and groundedness. Like we have to have those things too. You can't just go forever.
Well, and I think sometimes too, like people get so fixated on signs that they're not actually trusting their gut and their intuition. Whereas,
Yes.
like, if your gut and intuition are telling you, like, this is a go or this is a no go, and then you're like, okay, but where's the sign? And you're just ignoring your gut and intuition, then there's a different block happening for sure. That is maybe not going to bring you down the right path, that you had initially desired.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we can get overly reliant on like the outside perspective. Even if the
Yeah.
outside perspective is our guides, it's still a part of us, but it's like you're not trusting just the gut, the body. Like how can you
Yeah.
trust yourself?
Right, right. And then that's exactly right because then subconsciously you're telling yourself that you don't trust yourself, which then like is a whole other thing that you have to, work through, which we've all been there, me included. I was obsessed with signs at first and I was like, that's the only way I'm going to move forward. This is silly.
Yeah, and it gets to be unnecessary at some point.
Yes.
At some
Hmm.
point you'll trust yourself enough to know this is what it feels like when it's a yes. This is what it feels like when it's a no. And I
Yes.
think for so many people, I'm sure you can understand, is like the anxiety portion of that. Like it's so hard to break free of that to understand what is something that's like a gut feeling that's like, oh, I don't think I should do that. And what's like more just like anxiety, like
Yeah.
that's preventing you from doing it because you're scared.
Yeah. Well, and when you're scared, like, what are we scared of, right? And then that goes into a whole different conversation around like those fears. Are they actual fears? Are they real? Or are they you and your fight or flight? And really, you're not actually just being present in the moment. And fear in your body is the same, has the same reaction as excitement. So if you can, that doesn't mean like I'm never afraid, by the way. I still have fears. It
Of
just,
course.
it just, I still probably have some like weird phobias that I don't even know about right now. I mean, I don't like bugs, so I guess that's one. But those fears, then, if instead I think about it as like, am I afraid or am I excited? And if I can be like, you know what? No, I'm going to be excited. It's a totally different ball game.
It's hard to get there, but I
It
really
is.
think that it's important to try to
Yeah.
reframe that. Like it's taken me years and years and years and years and years to trust myself. So it's not like, oh, that's just easy, but I think that's the first step to get anywhere if you want to tap into your intuition or tap into this idea of like, yeah, drawing things into your life.
Well, and you know what I think is interesting is I didn't find it super easy, but then once I reprogrammed my own mind, well, obviously with the help of others, um, it literally, I just had two one-on-one clients. Was that yesterday? Yeah, that was like Thursday. See, I don't know a concept of time either. But I had two one-on-one clients and we were doing time techniques and they literally like 10, 15 minutes later were done and they're like, wait, what just happened? Like it was so fast, right? It's because we like prolong the like because there's comfort in your comfort zone ultimately. And so even though we know we want to shift and transform, we delay it for whatever reasons. And it's our ego trying to keep us safe. And it's great. But once we're like, no, we're really ready and we actually do transform and step out of those fears, that's, I feel like when it becomes faster and easier. But that's where people like me, like, I wouldn't suggest that someone go do one of these techniques on themselves when they haven't gone through the process and gotten certified. And I would even encourage anyone listening to this, like, if you're interested in shifting, right, your fears into excitement or whatever the case might be, is just make sure you find a coach who's actually like board certified. Because when you're dealing with the mind, you just want to make sure it's someone who's like really gone through the gamut. And the coaching industry is not
Yeah.
regulated. It's not regulated right now. And there's certainly
And
like,
even with Reiki too, it's like anyone
yeah,
could be a Reiki master. So really finding someone that you
you
trust.
trust. Yes. Like it's all like, for me, it's whenever I hire someone, it's like their energy, their trust level. And then certainly if I was doing something like life coach wise, I would want to make sure that they're certified because to your point, there's a lot of programs out there where someone can like, get certified, and I'm putting that in quotes, for like
I've
$7.
seen a I was about to say, I've seen an ad on Facebook for
Seven.
$7 life coaching certificate. And I was like, this is such fucking
I was like,
bullshit.
you might as well just print your own.
Yeah,
Like
honestly, you might as
shit.
well just talk to yourself. It's like, it's scary. So, yeah,
Yeah.
finding people that are legitimate. And I think it's harder to vet people within mediumship or Reiki. It's like, who's to
Yes.
say that you're doing a reading accurately? There's no way that you could ever know that. But so it's
Right.
just like trusting your gut, going off of recommendations of others, like,
Yes.
reading testimonials. But with life coaching, it's like, yeah, there are parameters and things that you can do to get certified. And then especially if you're doing something like hypnosis, things like that, like
Yeah.
it is important to find someone that maybe has more experience.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Because it's ensuring that you feel safe during it. Because ultimately all of this, like, you're in control, right? Like even me as a life coach, like helping you reprogram your mind and helping you like uncover and develop your spiritual gifts, it is ultimately you who is doing. So I just am guiding, right? But like you're the ultimate at the end. But I mean, listen, also find someone reputable because like you don't want to end up in like, who has seen that twin flame?
I haven't seen it, but I know
Oh,
I'm
oh
familiar.
God. I literally I
I
watched
haven't
it.
watched it yet because I know it's gonna piss me
I
off.
was so pissed off because like yeah, I was so pissed off.
And there
And
is a dark, like scary underbelly in a lot of like spiritual things where it's
yeah,
like people utilize these things to manipulate others.
yep,
So, especially with hypnosis, there is a history of that.
yeah,
It being used for negative things. But it's just like anything, any tool. It could be used for
yeah,
positive or negative. So it's like
100%.
you could take a rock and like look at it, or you could smash someone on the head. So
Yeah.
it's like it, you never know. But that I think is where the discernment comes in, and like building the trust for yourself. Because if you get a bad feeling when you see someone's post and you're like, oh, everyone says to get a reading from them, but I don't vibe with them. They might not be trying to manipulate people into a cult, but they just might not
No.
be the right person for you. So it's
Yeah.
just like trusting it.
It is trusting it for sure. And I love your point about like word of mouth too. Like ask, especially as you get, more intertwined into the spiritual community. Cause like our spiritual community, like it's around the world, right? Like, and so, yeah, I could recommend different people for different things across the board, right? That I would see myself, which I
Yeah,
think
and
is
I feel
good.
very lucky, like, you know, working with Lauren, working with Sloan, and then like my other Reiki teacher that I've worked with here daily. Like a lot of they have strong ethics, strong morals. There is a way where people can kind of go off in this la la land. So it's
Yeah.
important to have people that are, yeah, stable, grounded, and are living the kind of life that you want to live. Like it's
Hmm.
someone like you have your house is beautiful, you have dogs, you have a stable life, you're getting dressed every day, you're living a normal human experience at the same time
Yeah.
you're having this beautiful spiritual profound experience. So I think it's like looking to people like you that you can see, okay, you're living the life that I want to live. You're not living in a van like selling readings for $5, like
No.
I think it's like we really need to embrace it being a business too. Like if you're wanting to do readings and make money off of it, it has to be, and that's something I'm continuing to learn, like accepting that like it is a skill. It's not just like
Oh
it
yeah.
is a gift. Yes, but I don't just have to give it to you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's actually so interesting you say that because I do have a lot of, past clients or even friends who are like, "Awesome, like will you read me?" I'm like, "You
Not
can
right
pay
now.
me. You can book a sesh." Because this is my business, this is my livelihood now. And now, of course, like if a past client or a friend is like in a dire situation, like my friend is about to get married and she unfortunately has a little health thing happening, nothing major. But I was like, do you want me to send you Reiki? Like that's different.
Yeah.
That's like on our own terms. But it is also interesting because it's like when you start to treat it like a business, because it is a business, then you do want to like continue to develop your skills. Like, I haven't done a spiritual development circle in a while, but I was literally just feeling like this is the year that I need to go back in and like continue to flex my mediumship muscle in that way as I'm helping women develop their psychic and mediumship, right? Like
Yeah. I think
I
it's
can,
important to stay
it's so
evolving.
important. It's so important. And it's like, coaches need coaches. We need programs. Like we need it too, just to like stay like up on the up and up, I guess you could say, with our
Yeah, I
gifts.
think it's like any industry, like, I my background is like beauty and skin and stuff. So it's like you're not gonna take your little class, get your license, and then never do
Yeah.
anything with it and then expect 10 years later that you're gonna be amazing at it. It's like
Yeah.
you have to keep fresh, keep like practicing. And even if you're doing readings professionally, I think it's like good to try different things too. Like you
Yeah.
got into mediumship, then getting into the records, like how can you expand deeper to understand your skills?
Well, and it's like I didn't even have the records on my radar and an opportunity came across my path and I was like, okay, well that's cool. Feels right, right? Trusted my gut. I was like, well, let's do it. And my spirit team actually gave me my own modality in the records. It's Holy Fire Reiki in the records, which is like so powerful and so cool. But I wouldn't have gotten that if I had just been like, nope, I'm all set. Like did that one spiritual development circle that one time and like got certified in Reiki, but don't do anything with it other than the occasional, time I let people experience it. It's like really ensuring that we keep evolving and keep learning. And I'm a Sagittarius, so I'm going to be learning for my whole life, which is good.
I love to learn. I think there is a fine line too with that also of like just trying to get certified in everything before you do anything because you're
Oh yeah.
scared to actually do it. It's like keep doing it, start doing it, and continue to explore.
That's
There's a
so
class.
true.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just saying that's so true. It's like it's almost like analysis paralysis, but it's like
Yeah.
certification paralysis because you're like, oh, I have to get certified in this, this, and this. And I sit and tell my clients, I'm like, you're already certified in Reiki. Like, go give Reiki energetic healings right now. Like, you don't have to have your business figured out. Just like go and build your confidence, right? Like, do a few free sessions, get for testimonials, and then start charging or start charging. Like, there's no right or wrong, on ways to do that. But don't wait for our 3 months to end for you to like start doing it.
Yeah, because then I think also in something like that, a container where you have a coach, you have someone to work with and talk with, I think it's important to be doing stuff so that you can get some feedback. Because then if you go through an experience, you have a question, you have someone you can ask. Hopefully,
Yeah.
you have a good Reiki teacher that you can reach out to after and still communicate with.
Oh
That's
yeah.
something I tell my students because I teach Reiki is like, yeah, even if don't you're not in my class anymore, you can still like send me
Yeah.
if you have a question, send me an email. Like it's
Yeah.
we're in connection. You don't have to like book a session if you have like just a question about like
100%.
how to do this or that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say there's this class that I'm thinking about taking in the spring. I'll send it to you because
Ooh,
I'm just
okay,
getting
yeah.
a little ping in my head that I think it might be helpful or interesting
Yeah.
to you. But this woman, she's a medium. I took a medium circle with her. Her name's Costanza Morningstar. She
Okay, well, I
has a
love her
book about,
name.
yeah, she
Love
has
her name.
a book about mediumship. So I just like was like looking up stuff about her book and then I saw she does these circles. So I did it. I think 2021 I did a circle. And so I'm on her newsletter and she's doing this new class that's about
Ooh.
trance mediumship where you like connect
Ooh.
more into that channeling, bring energies through. And that's something that has been happening to me. So I'm like I feel like I need guidance with it. But
Love
I feel like
it.
it might be interesting for you. So
Oh, please send it
I'll
my
send
way.
it to you.
I think I feel like I only did trans mediumship like one week in spiritual development circle. Maybe that's not true. Maybe it was 2 weeks, but it was so cool. So yeah, it's definitely send my way. That is interesting.
Yeah, it's like I think something like that is even more kind of scary in not that it is a scary thing, but it's scary because it's so different because you're
Yeah.
experiencing it in your body.
Yeah.
Um, so I just think
Oh,
that would be interesting for you.
I remember is trance the same as like physical mediumship to you? Because to me, there's similarities, but also can be different.
I think there's I'm not sure. To me, like physical mediumship would be like a photograph where you could see a picture of an orb or a spirit or like things move like
And
things
physically
are you're
moving.
able to move things in the spirit. For
And
me I get like puddles. I don't know if that's ever happened to you. Like it will be like I
no.
have my cards on my table. There's my cups are over here. There's no water, but there's like a puddle and
Okay,
it's like
that
thick goopy stuff. That happens to me sometimes.
yeah, that I would agree physical, but I more mean like because like I feel like in trance mediumship,
I
you
don't
like
know if
bring
that's
in
what you're talking about.
no, I am talking about that because I feel like with Sloan's, we were doing physical mediumship, but it was more trance where like I let something come into my body.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I know that some believe that that's not the same as physical, but I feel like it is. Well, anyways, I actually was like oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the people, but like I was literally from like another world and I was channeling for Giselle and she was literally like your dogs were looking at you like who is that? Because you had like this completely other entity, like not even like a past loved one that, came into your body. So I feel like anything like that and like feeling and having it in your body would be so interesting.
For me, it has only been like strange entities or like angels. I've never had a human spirit like try to come in.
I
It's
feel
all
like I probably wouldn't have a human.
maybe it has, but like to someone else, but that's never happened to me. It's like
Yeah.
they talk through me or something. But
Oh, I
this
had
is
a
like they come in and they're like if you looked at it like from above, it'd be like they're like on top of you or like
yeah,
on your crown.
yeah, yeah. Interesting.
But
I find
I don't know. I For me it's like getting more comfortable with it. So that's why I'm like, oh, I want to
oh,
take a class to
yeah.
have
I
some.
mean, clearly I don't do like anything with that type of mediumship, right? Like I just channel with like the knowing, seeing, and hearing. It's very different. But yeah, I love that. I'll definitely give it a look.
Yeah,
That sounds
I'll email it to
fascinating.
you. I'll put in the show notes for anyone else who's
Yeah.
like, oh, that sounds interesting.
We're evolving.
Yeah. With the records, do you feel like so briefly for anyone listening, how what are the Akashic records? And then
Yeah.
how do you feel like there's a primary guide that you work with is my question.
Yes. So the Akashic Records are like a place that lives above the cosmos where all your lifetimes live. It's like the most energetically potent land, if you will, that you can go to, and you can either experience past lives, learn your lesson, bring them into this. You can go to future lifetimes and kind of fix the karmic things before you even head into that one. And you can also do like energetic infusions, activations, cord cutting. It's just like a magical realm, if you will. We always all have access to it. It's just, to your point, it can be overwhelming and like a lot if you've never built your foundations to experience it or give it to someone else. And by give to someone else, I mean take them to the records. Um, I love it. I would say all of my guides are there when I go up, but I do typically have like one or two that I work with when I'm in there. Um, it just
Could you
depends on what I.
describe them to us?
Oh my gosh, one of them who's like my main like records guide, if you will, is a flaming man. He is literally a
Mm.
flaming man named Michael.
Oh,
What a,
interesting.
what a normal name for a flaming man. And
One of my guides is named Mikey.
oh, someone was like, "Oh, is that like Archangel Michael?" I was like, "No, no, he's just this flaming man. I don't know." Um, and then the other is actually my main spirit guide, who I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. Her name is Rebecca. She has been with me since I was born. I used to call her the Blue Lady because I didn't know her name. She like wore like a blue olden day dress. Um, but she's like, I feel like she's like my main earth form spirit guide. So I think that's why she's up there when I go up there to like guide me, because they're still part of my earthly form even though I'm in the records. That makes sense. And then
Hmm.
and then Michael's like my main guide. But I'll have other ones kind of float in and out. My record keepers always okay, in Monsters Inc., the like front desk lady in Monsters Inc.
Oh, with the glasses.
Yeah, that's what my record keepers look like.
I love that. That is
Yeah.
so funny to
I
me.
don't know why. I mean, like so random, but that's what my record keepers like. And the record keepers for me are like the people that are at the front desk who I like go and be like, I'd like my records, like, and then they give me a tablet or a book or whatever.
Help you
Or
guide the
they'll like,
experience.
yeah, yeah. Yes. So they're like different than my spirit guides. They're always up in the records.
So
Yeah.
when you go in for another person, do you, how do I ask this? Do you experience it like through your records where you're like, bring me like Jill's record, or do you go into theirs? Because
I
when I go in theirs.
I go in theirs. Yeah. Like I typically bring them into their what I call their Akashic courtyard. And then we'll go into like different buildings, or if it's Reiki in the records, it'll be like a different area in the records, whether that be like a river or like a cliff or whatever, the ocean. Um, yeah, I go into theirs though. So it's interesting. So I'm like, everyone's because I'll do this in group settings too. And it's almost like I can see the different like lands like across my vision in my mind's eye because everyone's courtyard looks different.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like I'm almost in everyone's, but also in the same one. I don't know, it's wild.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I never really thought about it because I'll do group meditations where we'll go in there like a journey kind of thing. Um, but I don't know how I perceive that. I'll have to think about that.
Yeah. I mean, occasionally if I'm doing Reiki, then I feel like I'm in my own records, like visually. But if I'm doing like any other experience, like an activation specifically, like if I'm activating one of their gifts or like abundance, or if I'm helping them cut a cord and it's not Reiki related, or even them meeting their spirit teams, a lot of times I'll bring people to the records to meet their spirit teams because it's just like I don't know, like a safe place that
Yeah,
I feel like people feel safer than me just being like, let's call in your guides right now.
let's bring them in your room.
Let's bring them right next to you. I'm like, joke's on you, though. They're already there.
Exactly. That was something that stressed me the heck out as a little kid, thinking about like your ancestors or your guides like always being around you, and like I'd be like, oh, they were watching me go to the bathroom. I get so freaked out about that.
They're like, no, we're not. We don't
I
care.
think they're like that. I don't think that's like they're. I think they're constantly with us, but I don't think they're just like observing you
Yeah, I don't think they're
constantly.
like, oh, she's going to the bathroom. Let me stare at her.
Yeah, I don't think it's like that. But I think like when we think about it too much, we can get tripped up on those things. So I think
Oh,
just
yeah.
like don't think about the logical side of everything. Like I think it's different every time, especially with the records.
It- Very different every time. And I think it's just like, what do you need from that experience in the records? You know, I love the records now, though. I'm like, let's go there every day.
What, so we have a little more time. I'll ask you a few more questions. What is the strangest thing that you've seen up there?
Strangest
Like
thing.
visually?
You mean besides a flaming man? That was pretty.
Yes, besides that. I'm sure there's I'm sure there's weirder things.
I will say what was really well, I guess I'll say it's weird, but also like really cool is I went to one of my past lives with one of my Akashic or with my Akashic mentor. I only have one. I don't know. I was saying multiple. Maybe I do have multiple. Maybe I need another. I don't know. Anyways, I was up there and she took me to a past life to be gifted a skill, right, to use in this lifetime that I just haven't encountered yet. And I was like, ooh, awesome. Okay. Well, guess who I was in a past life?
I don't know.
Merlin.
Oh, that's so interesting.
So I was like weird because you're like, wait, what? And then also really cool because I was like, ooh, this explains why I'm so magical in this earthly form because I, in a past life, was Merlin. And then people are like, well, Merlin, was he real or not? I was like, oh, who the F cares? I was Merlin.
And I think it's like we all I think with like bigger energies like that, it's like we could be tapped into a lot of that. Like you
Oh,
could
yeah.
be connected to your past life, like as Cleopatra, like so many people say, oh, it's Cleopatra in past life. We probably all were.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah,
it's like
100%.
getting that skill. That's interesting though, because he comes up a lot for my clients.
Yeah. And I was like,
I'm like, I feel like I'm
hello.
tapped into that stream. But it's
Uh-huh.
like the alchemy energy too, like bringing that forward for you to be able to like
Yeah.
transform.
Yeah. Otherwise, so I wouldn't say I've really had any like weird things. And maybe it's just because, like, by the time I started going to the records, I was already so comfortable with my spiritual gifts and like with the other side, right? Because of Reiki, that I'm not even sure there could be like something that weird that I'd be like, what is that? Except for a flaming man. But I don't even find that weird. I think it's cool.
Yeah, I think like some things, I think anything could be weird, but I've seen like people as like a crystal at the bottom of the ocean. I'm just like, oh, that's so interesting. It's not necessarily weird, but it's like, it's different than what they might have expected when I'm like, oh, let's look at your past lives. I'm like, oh, you were a tree.
Yeah.
Or- It could be something like that, which I think it's so exciting, but I think people want this like big, flashy, exciting past life.
Oh,
And I'm like,
yeah.
but you were a tree. That's like the best thing you could possibly
Yeah, I
be.
was like, I don't know, that sounds pretty great. I've never been shown myself as a tree, but I certainly have been one, I'm sure.
I
That's
feel
how we're
like
so
like a
grounded.
yeah, birch tree or something.
Yeah, I do love a good birch.
I don't know. I just see that for you.
I, when I go to the records, I'm going to do a past life on myself and just be like, what tree was I? And let's see what they show me.
Oh, let
But
me
I,
know what they
I really
say.
do love birchwood. Like, and my parents had like this pile of it. And I was like, they sold their cabin, but to my cousins, but I was still like, but you need to take that with you because we like need it. And they were like, this is so random. Like, no, you don't. So I think I probably was. I think you're right.
Let me know. I could honestly, I could see that. That's very interesting. Um,
Very.
so thank you so much for talking with us. I'd
Yeah.
love, before we close out, like, I'd love if you could do a little card pull for us, a little connection, any energy that you feel intuitively that
Yeah.
people could tap into right now. It's the beginning of the year. It's January 5th when we're recording this. So this will probably come out in a couple weeks. And then yeah, if you have any like little teeny tips for people who are wanting to get more into
Yeah.
manifestation, maybe we could guide the reading with some just stuff for career, creativity. I feel like this year I keep just getting messages about creativity. So
Yeah.
anything that you feel.
I'm using my fave Rebecca Campbell Starseed Oracle
Oh, I
deck.
have that one too. I love it.
Oh, I thought I was okay. So obviously you probably do too, have like a ton of decks, but for some reason, this is the deck I've been using for like the past year. And I was like, are we gonna try a new deck? And the spirit was like, nope.
We like
I just
this one.
we like this one.
I
They
just
actually
love the colors on that one.
I do too. I think too, though, they're like having me start to explore tarot. So I think that's probably why
Mm,
they're like, let's just use this one. It's beautiful. Like we don't need to like get a new one. We can just do, you know, this. I will say like my biggest tips for people. Oh my gosh, it's so interesting. I just got this same card. I have a program running right now. We just had week 1 of manifesting magic. It's literally 6 weeks of you uncovering and manifesting all at the same time, but we got this card. So I feel like this is so on point for this year. It's the Sea of Mintaka, seeing potential, bringing unconsciousness to light. And I feel like the reason this is coming
beautiful.
through with this is because this is endless possibilities. This is like we've gone through the trials and tribulations last year, and we're in a year 8. And it's just like, this is the abundance. This is when we need to like not stop working on ourselves, but like start actually like reaping what we sow and like actually taking aligned actions to get those things that we're manifesting and to call in all the things. I feel like there's a lot, anyone who's listening to this, and I feel like there's even going to be some people listening to it next year, and you're going to be like, oh, I'm too late. You're not. This is exactly when you're supposed to see this, because it's like the abundance that you've been seeking. It's like you've already removed so many of the roadblocks for that potential for those. I mean, this is the card. If you're listening, you can't see it, but it's just like this beautiful, like ocean blue water. And that's why it's the Sea of Mintaka. It's just like, I want to go dive in. It's like the Caribbean. I don't even know. But it also has the cosmos above it. And it's just showing that like there's endless possibilities in our earthly realm and in the spiritual. It's up to you though to take the aligned action to go after those endless possibilities. And for us this year, I feel like there's so much abundance around money, but even more on impact. I feel like this is going to be a really impactful year in the collective where we're actually utilizing our skills and our gifts in a way that makes people feel safe, heard, and good. And that's also going to in turn be a lot of income, which is where the abundance in the money comes in. So it's like a nice marriage. And we need a little 8 year after last year, because last year was spiritual awakening for a lot of peeps. And that can be us taking a hard look at stuff. So now it's time for our sea, our beautiful ocean, diving in. Oh, that's so cool.
I love that. Yeah, I think I was doing a little collective reading the other day and that was or last night and that was like exactly the message. It's like we have already put a lot of effort in, and whether that's like literal tangible things like organizing and like setting up
Hmm.
your little systems or whatever it is that you got, the skills that you got that you built up, it's actually doing something with it, like you said.
Yeah.
It's not just taking all the certifications like we were talking about earlier and then being like, why don't I have any clients? It's like
Yeah.
you actually have to do stuff to get there.
You
So
have
I
to do
think it's
stuff.
the action steps that we can take, but it coming from that place of like impact, like you said, joy and creativity, like we're actually wanting to do it,
Yep.
not like, oh, I have to do it this way because that's how someone else did it.
And I think it's too like realizing, like, even right now when you're listening to it or in the future, like, you are ready. You have healed enough now. Like, you are ready now. And yes, you will continue to heal. You will continue to get, inner guidance and different trials and tribulations, but you're ready now. You don't have to do more inner work in order to call it all in. Like, you're ready right now.
Yeah, just do it. It's like
Just do
an I
it.
think it's annoying because I think it's like we just want to learn more and more and more and more and listen more and more without taking action because again, there's that fear of like
Yeah.
if I take the action, I'm really doing it and there's no like turning back. And I think a lot of it too, this is what keeps coming up for like me and collectively for clients and stuff is like the fear of yourself, like the fear of
Yeah.
like the power that you have. And I think a lot of that is like past life stuff that we're like we maybe were hurt for our power or we use our
Mhm.
power in a way that we wouldn't do now. So it's like cleansing all that shit so
Yeah.
that we can actually step into our greatest timeline
Yeah.
without the interference of like self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Because I think it's easy. Okay, then I take this step, then I take a step back, then I take a step, then I take a step back. We have to just keep going.
Well, and I think it's like get really clear with your vision, right? Of like what you're working towards and hold on to that vision because when you hold on to it, that is when we take a step forward and then it's not exactly how we want it and it's feeling a little teetery. But when we have that vision and we stay consistent with our action towards it, like you're working towards that and you're like, no, this is a done deal. This is it. I feel like that's like tip number one, like hold your vision this year, like hold what you are calling in and what you see for your life. Like if you're like, hey, this year I really want to start or expand my side hustle so that it becomes my full-time gig. Love that. Guess what does it look like? What are you doing? Like what is your day to day? And like really hold the vision because then as you're building it out, it's not like, oh, what do I do next? I'll just go get another certification. Like no, you're going to actually take action because you're like that vision is so important and you want to be so impactful. Um, so that's like tip one for manifesting, right? This year. And I think like tip two, I like to do things in three. So tips two and three. Tip two is like really utilize your other side. And if you're like, I don't know how to interact with them, simply look for angel numbers, right? Any repeating number. And think about like, what was I thinking right before I saw that angel number? Or you can Google it, like whatever. It doesn't like, this is not rocket science, right? With angel numbers. You can be like, what does 1111 mean? Like, go look it up. Or what does it mean to you? Maybe it means something totally different and be cool with that. And recognize like when you're seeing that number repeatedly, like that's them essentially shouting at you and just go see what it means and then lean into it. And then my third tip would be wealth journaling because I feel like we all journal all the time. But what I love about, I call it wealth journaling. People may call it other things. What I love about it is that you're literally setting yourself up. Like I will be writing every single day for 2024. It's 12/31/24, and holy crap, I did it. Actually, I think I swear in mine, but whatever. I did it. Like I called in multiple six figures. I have like a specific dollar amount, right? And I'm like, and I did it by X, Y, and Z. It was so fun. It was easy. I reinvested in this. I won a free luxury trip. Like I just like write it out as if I already had it. And then I really like sit with that energy of like, oh my God, this is me on that day, right? It's holding my vision, right? It's like getting clear, it's writing it down, and it's just being like, this is done. Like now I get to go have the fun in the action to have it become a reality. And that's cool because even if you're just starting to get into the spiritual side of things, like our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between fantasy and reality. So your subconscious mind believes what you're writing down as if you already have it. So it's going to take action to make it so. So it's like on both fronts, you're getting like your yin and yang together.
Yeah. I love that. I think my best tip for anyone looking to manifest, and when we say manifest in general, it's just like calling things into your life, drawing things into your life.
Yep.
I think the best thing you can do is to see why you actually want things. So if you're going to
Mhm.
do this journaling practice, like I want to call in this luxury trip or this more clients or this money, or I want someone to buy my coffee tomorrow, like a tangible thing. Why do you actually want it? So
Mhm.
I think the part that we have to focus on is like admitting to ourselves why we actually want it. We do want, if we want money, it's like, why do you want it? Do you want the money so that other people can think you're successful? Or do you want the money so that you have more ease in your life so you can actually do the things you want to do? That's what
Mhm.
you want to tap into, is like admitting to yourself, like, I want this because it will make my life easier. I think that's a lot of things that we're scared to like admit, that we
Yeah.
want things to be easier because it's so easy to be like, I am so tough and I don't need things to be easy. But it's admitting to yourself like, okay, I want that in my life to make room for more possibilities. Because if
Yeah.
you have the money, then you could sign up for this class that might open up your life. You could go on a trip there, you might meet your soulmate. Like who
Yeah.
knows what it is, but if you're not stuck in the improbability of that stuff coming into you, or coming
Yeah.
into your life, coming into your life, like there is so much more possibility. So it is like the reprogramming, it is all the stuff that we talked about, like the action steps. But I think it is really admitting, okay, I want
Yeah.
this because I want my life to be easy.
And you know what's so funny? My word for the year is ease.
Oh, really? My,
I'm like,
my,
yes, make it easy.
yeah, make it fun, make it
Yes.
joyful. Like
Because
it
how am
doesn't
I
have to
when,
be
yeah.
hard.
And like when you pick if you do pick a word, which is cool, right? Like I pick a word and then I really think about like, what does ease mean to me? Like ease literally means like the flow of money, because the more money I make, the more impact I can have. And
Yeah.
that also means like the more joy and freedom. And then I can hire on more team members, which guess what? That gives me more time and freedom, and it gives me structure, which makes it easy. So it's like,
And you're like helping other people more.
and
The
you,
more that you
yes,
can help more people, the more that you can help them grow their own lives.
exactly. It's like, then it's just like this. I don't even like to say ripple effect. It's like a tidal wave out then on what that is. And it's, my words have been like expansion. And like when it was expansion, it was like, how can I expand my capacity for holding space for others? Because I think ultimately for me, it's all about impact, which then brings income, right? So it's like both are beautiful. And one last thought is, no one cares how much money you make and have. Like, does anyone care that Tony Robbins or Oprah have like a ton of money? I mean, someone probably does somewhere for like some reason, but like majority don't. You know why? Because they give back and they make such a huge impact. And I think it's just reminding ourselves that like money isn't bad. Money is just money. It's just energy. And if it gets you ease, for me, like amazing. That's awesome. And it's creating impact and it's keeping me in integrity. And it's like all of our values aligned, right? Because I think money gets a bad rap sometimes subconsciously for us. So we all
Yeah.
say we want more, but to your point, we don't know why we want it, right? We're not really being honest about why we want it. And then we're like, but we shouldn't want it because then that's like a bad thing. It's not.
Yeah. Clearing that, clearing that, clearing
Yeah,
that.
it's
Yeah.
done. It's gone. No more.
Bye-bye.
Ooh,
My word is nourishment for this year.
love that.
And I
Love.
think that, yeah, the more that I can make money off of my skills, the more I can feel nourished. Like, not
Mhm.
just because, okay, I have dollars in the bank, but it's like, oh, then I can buy the things that I need to take care of my body. Then I could go see a doctor if I need to, because apparently in America that costs a lot of money. Like it's all the
Yeah.
things. It's just having more ease and more options in your life.
Yeah.
And that's like what I think is the most important, is the options, not being stuck with only one
Yeah.
way to get there. So
Oh, I
I
love that.
invite all that in for all of us
I
this
was like,
year.
here for it, here for
Yes.
it. Coming in.
Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you so much for being here
Yeah.
with us. If anyone wants to connect with you, we're gonna put all your info in the show notes,
Yep.
your website, Instagram. You're on Instagram. It's the Rich Witch Next Door.
Hmm.
And
Find me.
anywhere else people can find you?
You can find me there. We'll pop in. I have a Facebook group. I'm always going in and doing like free intuitive card pulls or little free Reiki and stuff like that. So definitely, guys, if you're interested, check that out. Or yeah, my website has all my current offerings, and you're always welcome to DM me or book a no string call. I'm always happy to chat.
Cool. Thank
Yeah.
you. Well, thank you all for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. Let us know what your word of the year is. If you're
Hmm.
on Spotify, you can comment. If you're on YouTube, you can comment. Otherwise, send me a Instagram message, and we'll see you guys really soon. Bye-bye.